the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. My name's Ellie Greening.
And my name's Sandra Patel-Stewart.
On this podcast, we will be interviewing some of the UK's greatest tech leaders. We'll be discussing war stories, battle scars, and their learnings from their journeys.
Hopefully, you will pick up some great tips, learn from others' experiences, and have a good laugh along the way.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for tuning in to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. So super happy this week that we've got the fantastic David Sollitt on the podcast. Hi David.
Hi.
So David is the Chief Operating Officer at IM Asset Management. So Irwin Mitchell Asset Management is an independent financial planning and investment management company dedicated to providing first-class financial solutions and investment services to both professionals and individuals.
Fantastic. Hi, David. It's great to have you on board. So we had a great chat last week, just kind of, I guess, running through a few of how this podcast, the session will work. And I know that you've got quite a broad background, and I think you were quite keen to display that message and get that message across to the viewers and listeners today. What would be really good to start with is just to kick off with a little bit, telling the viewers a little bit more about you, about your journey, how you got to COO, as I understand that you started as an analyst programmer, didn't you, at Sheffield City Council? So
I did. Well, probably, yeah. So
went from there.
starting with early career then, I guess one of the first things to highlight when people talk about careers is I didn't probably take the usual path, which was off to university and then a graduate scheme. I left school at 17, decided I didn't want to study anymore, and started doing admin roles, and then got my first job as a trainee mainframe operator.
Wow. I remember the days of recruiting mainframe engineers.
Yeah, so ICL mainframes for Sheffield Council, and then did all my studying while I worked, and pretty much I think I've done every single IT job there is on the way up, whether that's a bit of help desk support, networks, analyst programmer. I think, you know, you look at moments in your career when you think, oh, that was a pivotal moment. So when I was an analyst programmer, I really enjoyed adding value to different parts of the business. And I also was studying at Sheffield Business School for an MBA. And when I'd finished that, I think that was when I realised that my career aspirations were probably not going to be fulfilled within local government.
Mm.
So I left there and went to work for Logica, who existed up till about 3 years ago. And they were a technical consultancy doing work for lots of sectors. I worked in energy and utilities, and we did work for the likes of British Gas, Yorkshire Electricity. Did 3 fantastic years working for them as a technical consultant. The standard that they set in terms of delivery, and some of the people that you worked with were just super smart people. And I think what I definitely realised in that stage that I was never going to be the world's greatest programmer. But I think what I started to realise at that point was probably where my strengths were, and that was very much more at the people end of technology delivery and working with clients. So I'd started to get into project management when I was there. I then moved to GE in Leeds, the consumer finance business in Leeds, and spent with them about 5-6 years with them. I think GE was another one of those points in my career where quite defining moment. For better for worse, GE's got a very strong culture. It's very big on its management training. Had some great opportunities to really stretch myself, and moved, I guess, quite rapidly from project manager, program manager, heading up a department, and delivering some quite big things, moving business from Edinburgh to Leeds. And then I took on my first CIO role, so moved to another G business, which was a corporate credit card business across Europe, and we built the business up from break even up to a couple of million turnover a year. And that was great, being part of something that really, adding value at the sharp end. That business was acquired by American Express globally, and I took that as an opportunity to move on again. So I worked for part of a Canadian bank, Toronto Dominion, which is a big Canadian North American powerhouse bank. In the UK, they were the stockbroking business. So if you want to do your own trading, what they call execution only stockbroking. So we were running a business in Leeds. We had a joint venture with NatWest. We had a business in Luxembourg, which was for expats and non-dom clients, and then we acquired an outsourcing business in Birmingham, and part again of a great team that built a fantastic business. That was my biggest tech role. So I had 180 staff across those 4 sites. I think what you start to become very clear of then is about your leadership and how you carry yourself, and what messages that you want to put out to the team. From there, I then took a bit of a change in career. I got the opportunity to sort of rethink what I wanted to do. I left TD, and I decided I wanted to have a go at working for myself. So I did about 3 years doing consultancy for very different organisations. I did 6 months working for Asda in Leeds, which was coming from financial services, just completely different. The focus, the energy, the speed of delivery was.
What would you say the biggest challenge was? Because obviously up until then you'd worked within consultancy, financial services, investment, and moving into retail. What were the biggest kind of challenges adapting to the environment and culture?
So I think the pace is the main thing. It's a very immediate business. It's these are the grocery results this week. This is how it compares to plan. This is our share of market against Tesco's, Morrisons, Sainsbury's. This is what we're going to do next week. And so the speed of delivery is beyond what I'd seen in financial services. I think as well in financial services, for a long time, you sort of felt that technology was leading the way, whereas in retail, you get absolutely the point that I think it's changed a bit now, but at that time, the shops, the physical shops are the most important thing, and it's the clients going in there, and everybody is delivering towards that. And so a real sense of togetherness and real strong leadership, and it was a fascinating place to work. Really enjoyed that. And then I did 6 months working for Virgin Money as their interim change director. Again, very different business, bit of a sort of challenger bank. Very interesting time. And then I went to AJ Bell in Manchester, who are a big SIP provider and online stockbroking. And then I got the opportunity to join Irwin Mitchell. I think being part of something, whilst I really enjoyed working for myself, what I missed was belonging to something and building something. I like that sense of belonging and looking back and a legacy, I suppose, of what you deliver. So I was living back in Sheffield by then, and it was just perfect, great opportunity of a business that I could really add value to, that was looking to grow with a broader skill set for me. So it was a perfect opportunity.
Cool. So when you joined IM Asset Management as COO, what was the kind of, were you brought in to take over a role, and was it BAU? were you brought in specifically to take lead on?
So they'd not had a COO before. I suppose the broad remit that I was given was, excuse me, was to take 75% of the chief exec's role off him. So the chief exec is also the chief investment officer, so he's looking after all the money. And so it was to free him up and become a much bigger business. I think specifically it was about how we could grow the business at the top line, but also from a productivity point of view, how we could control operational cost. And they've got quite a lot of experience of putting in tech, change, transformation to control costs whilst growing the top line. So that was the original remit when I came in. And over the 5 or 6 years I've been here now, we've completely replaced the core platform of technology. So it's now built on a software package, which is a Microsoft stack, which enables us to take advantage of things like Microsoft Dynamics, workflow. So we've got a much better, we're starting to control the productivity, but also give the client a much better and richer experience. And then slightly broader, I've got the responsibility now for things like the relationship with some of the head office functions. So we're part of a much bigger group, the Irwin Mitchell Group, which people probably recognise more as a law firm than a financial services firm. So we get a lot of our service from them, so HR, marketing, IT. So I manage those relationships as well. And it's about making sure we're getting the best out of what they're delivering, taking the best and making sure that delivers for us as a business.
Great, fantastic. An impressive background. Obviously you've worked for some great businesses, some really big brands, and you've had quite a diverse background in terms of industries. And obviously starting in tech, you've worked your way up through from a leadership point of view. I think that would bring us quite nicely on telling the viewers more about your leadership style and what, if you could go into a bit more detail about your leadership style and perhaps around how your teams would describe you as well.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, this, isn't it? It's that little bit of self-analysis.
Always easy to do, is it?
I'm very, when I went to work for Logica, I used to work over in their Manchester office, and they used to say to me, "You're a typical Yorkshireman. You see." and I took that as a compliment.
I think it is. It certainly is.
I think I'm very transparent in my leadership style. What you see is what you get. If you came to see me at home, I'm no different to I am in the office. I wear my heart on my sleeve. People know when I'm frustrated. People know when I'm excited. I treat people hopefully how I would like to be treated. I think, it doesn't matter what level you're at. I think, you treat people as an equal. I think that's really important. I'm a great believer in developing people. So I've had some really rewarding colleagues who've gone on to greater things. I try and engage with everybody. I think that's a really important part, and make sure people understand the message. I think the message needs to be quite simple. People need to understand why they're doing something. It's not just here's the strategy, it's the why and how do they fit. I think that if you can get to the point where people can feel that what they do makes a difference, and they can see that helps move the business forward and deliver on the business goals, then I think you've got half the battle.
Yeah, it's about bringing them on that journey, isn't it? So that you're communicating the journey that you are building and going on as a team, so that they feel part of it and they're going on that journey with you.
Yeah.
I think actually we interviewed someone yesterday, Jo, who's the CTO at the Hut Group, and she was saying that one of her greatest skills as a leader is her storytelling, which I think is a really nice way of putting it, that she explains the story to everyone so they all know the direction they're heading in, which is so important in leadership, isn't it? And sometimes that's quite easily forgotten. I think I know that from experience, that obviously explaining to everyone the picture and the vision and what you're trying to do. So yeah, definitely amazing. Now we all know, obviously you've done your sort of like masters, so you've done that education piece, which I'm sure brought with it so many learnings. But I think we all know that you kind of get your hardest learning and your toughest learning when you're deep in the trenches. So it would be interesting if you're able to share any sort of war stories or battle scars that you've gained along the way, but where you've learnt the most from it, which then in turn will help our listeners learn and develop and hopefully save them getting the same pickle.
Yeah, I think, again, spent some time thinking about this. I mean, I think generally, I was thinking, what are the points in my career where I've learned the most, where have I moved forward? And I think first and foremost, it's about being stretched. So I think if you sit in your comfort zone and that's all you ever do, then you're not going to get those battle scars, because it's a very sort of safe ride. So one of the things I'm doing now is I've got responsibility for a team of about a dozen financial advisors, and I'm having to learn a lot more about the front end of the business, about business development and about financial planning. And it's really interesting. It's great working with those guys. There's a lot of energy, and it's slightly out of my comfort zone, which is, I think it's not so much a battle scar, but it's about moving forward. I think other times are perhaps when I've been passed over for a promotion. Again, it's those points and how you respond to that. So at GE, I was passed over and then got promoted twice within 18 months. So I think it's about how you respond to those. In terms of real battle scars, I think the one that stands out was when we were launching this big rebrand around it was an online business, so it was a big rebrand of the website, the whole brand. And when I look back now, I think, why did we do that? But we had a huge release upgrade to all our systems on the weekend, and the rebrand was launching on the Monday morning, and we got digital marketing across the underground in central London. We got big banners at London Bridge Station. And on the Sunday night when we were doing the testing for this release, there was a problem with the compatibility of the website with some of our other services. And on the Monday morning...
What time was it on a Sunday night when you had that?
So the release should take all weekend. And this was by the time we brought all the services back up, this was the last bit of regression testing we were doing. So it was like 10, 11 o'clock Sunday night. And we thought we'd got it to a good place, but on the Monday morning when people ramped up, it did not perform well. It was like a three-legged dog. And I've got my marketing director who's spent all this money on this advertising. That was a very uncomfortable day. We fixed it that night, and we got through it. But I think it was just some of those simple things that we'd spent months planning this thing about what could go wrong, and actually a really simple thing where you think, well, why did we launch a massive rebrand the day after a big tech upgrade? That was just so obvious not to do. So I guess the message is, you can have all the complicated plans, you can have all your risk mitigation, but actually sometimes you just need some common sense to look at something and say, is that the right thing to do? I think the other thing I was going to say is, if I think about real battle scars, and I think this talks to a little bit about me as a leadership style, is, the real challenges and things that define me have not been in the workplace. They are things that have happened to me personally, and I think also that gives me a perspective on work. So I think yes, work's important. Yes, those battle scars, but I think you've got to keep a sense of perspective on things.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, like you say, it's things that your lifestyle in general, it dictates, doesn't it, your leadership style and your progression and development in that piece. So yeah, no, that's definitely really interesting.
And that's one of the things I find quite most rewarding about the job that I do now. So I guess the thing that Erwin Mitchell is most famous for, if you like, is his personal injury business. So people who've had catastrophic life-changing injuries, whether that's road traffic accidents at work. And we work alongside the legal business to look after those clients after they've had during the process, but particularly after the settlement, investing that money for the rest of their lives. And you meet some incredible people who have achieved fantastic things with, some really life-changing injuries. And I think that, that's quite humbling to work with people like that, and you get a real perspective of what's important in life.
Yeah, definitely.
We've talked, you've talked about your leadership experience, your leadership style. How have you adapted, and what have you had to kind of change in recent times to ensure that your teams continue to follow you as a leader, to lead their teams, to, I guess, unite the teams given the current circumstances?
Yes, I think it's been really interesting. I mean, it's like a big social experiment, really. So we've got everybody working from home. We've got and everything's working well. I mean, there's in the first couple of weeks when running around and plugging this thing into that thing to make sure everything worked. But we've got into a nice rhythm now where everything's working well. And I think it's really challenged me and some of the exec around our thinking, men of a certain age thinking that home working for everybody's not going to work and we need people in the office. And I think it's really blown that out of the water. I think, we're working really well. I think in terms of the leadership and the team, we stay connected. We've got Microsoft Teams rolled out now. We're doing weekly calls with everybody. I think it's really important to stay connected. There's a lot of challenges at the moment. People have got kids at home that perhaps usually have grandparents around helping out, a big support network, and a lot of that's not there. So I think, you've got to be cognizant of people have got lots of other things going on in their life. We've tried to create an environment that people feel they can raise those issues. There's a bit of humour in there as well. When we're doing the weekly calls, it's not just about the business, but we've tried to share lots of updates with them. And then I think it's just trying to reach out to individuals as well, who, you probably talk to while you're grabbing a coffee in the office, but maybe you don't talk to them in your normal line of work. So it's just trying to stay connected with people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it certainly brought us all closer together. That's a general kind of consensus that I'm certainly getting from speaking to my network, is that a lot of businesses are now working much closer, teams are closer, and people that, like you said, you might grab a coffee with, or might just walk past in the canteen or something, you might say hello to. That I think certain people are, they're having more meaningful conversations now. What would be really interesting to know as well is, do you think how you've kind of, I guess, adapted over the last couple of months, do you think there are the things that may change within your business and the culture moving forwards, and I guess when we get to whatever the new norm's going to be?
Yes, I think that's a really, really interesting question, isn't it? I mean, we've already started talking about this as an exec, and we're adamant that we don't want to go back to the old normal. We've proven that we don't need to have everybody in the office 5 days a week, and for some individuals that's quite a change because they have a long commute. So straight away, you've got a couple of hours back in your day. And I think it's about, irrespective of where somebody is, how can they be the most productive? And that can be not only from a physical point of view, but I think also about maybe their working pattern or how they work. So I think we will be a lot more open to those things. In terms of the office, the bricks and the mortar, I think that will be a place which will be much more about that social side. I mean, certainly for me, the one thing I really miss is that seeing somebody, the social side of being part of a team. You know, as I said before, when I was working for myself, I missed that sense of belonging, and I think that's a really important part, particularly as a leader, is that you set the culture in a business, and I think to keep that going, that physical presence of being in the same place is really important. So I think that will be an important part. And then I guess it's a bit of a buzzword, but the whole thing about collaborative spaces and how does the physical office change so that actually it becomes much more about problem solving or collaboration than it is about, that's my desk and that's where I go and sit and work 9 to 5.
Mm. Definitely. It'll be interesting, obviously, your experience as a leader, and you've got an amazing career, but it'd be great to find out a little bit more about what makes you tick, I guess, and what you're really passionate about and what excites you. So yeah, is there something in particular that you're really passionate about?
In work?
Work and life.
Yeah.
Like you say, they both merge anyway.
Life. I think in work, I think it's about doing a great job for your clients, and I'm very proud, I guess, of what I've achieved, and so it's important for me to do a good job. I suppose, my personal brand. So at work, that's an important thing for me. I mean, I don't have any sort of particularly grand ideas about a legacy other than to sort of say I want to make sure that whenever I've left a job, I've left it in a much better state than when I arrived. I guess others will be the judge of that. My passions, for my sins, my football team, Sheffield Wednesday, who are the underachievers now for the last 20 years, but it'd be easy to follow a good side, wouldn't it? So that's a passion. I have a season ticket and have had for a number of years.
Right.
Family. I've got 3 boys, ranging from the youngest is 5, the eldest is 20. So
wow,
spending time with them is really important.
They all support Sheffield Wednesday as well.
They have no choice. They are fourth generation. There is, if there's one thing that's nailed on at birth, it is support.
That's brilliant. Obviously you've achieved some impressive things over your career, but there must be one kind of project or one thing that stands out to you as your greatest achievement. What is that?
Wow. So when I first arrived at TD, the business had grown quite quickly, but the technology hadn't really grown with it. So we were having quite a few problems with the technology, and for whatever reason, there was a bit of a rift between the technology department and the rest of the business. And my view was, we've got problems to solve, we do that as a business. And I had some great support from my boss, who was the chief exec, and we put in some changes straight away that gave us some breathing space, and people not only saw that stability in the platform, but what they also saw was a change in the way that we operated, and it was very much, we work as part of the business. One of my pet hates is when people in IT talk about the business, as if that's some sort of external thing. You know, you are part of the business, and I think that relationship of working with partners across the business and delivering something together is really important. So I think that cultural change, along with the technology, set us on a good path. So that over the following 4 or 5 years, we delivered some great things together.
Brilliant.
So obviously it's Mental Health Awareness Week, and you're in a particularly senior position. You've had a lot of leadership experience. I'm sure you've had a lot of sleepless nights along that journey. It'd be really good to understand and to give the listeners some tips and advice around how you've kept yourself sane, healthy, how you've managed stress.
Yeah, when I saw your question on this, I thought, well, how I manage my stress doesn't necessarily keep me healthy. the box of wine that I got delivered last week was a testament to that.
It's got to be done sometimes, though, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
Getting everyone through lockdown at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, our recycle bin's never been so full. I think the first thing to say is I think the openness now that people can talk about mental health issues is an absolute light years away from just probably 10 years ago. You know, I think it's so much more acceptable to talk about that now, and I think that's a real breath of fresh air. I think, you know, it's the one illness, isn't it, where people, you know, somebody could be suffering and you might never know. And I think, you know, we all make assumptions about people, and I think it's great that we are, I guess, as a nation, getting to a point where it's acceptable to talk about that. You know, specifically at Irwin Mitchell, that, you know, we do a lot around the mental health, and I think, you know, it's a very supportive network around that. As an individual, I think I've probably learned the hard way in some ways. You know, I think, you know, when I look back, there were a couple of times in my career where I was suffering a little bit with stress, and I think you know, I now recognise those signs, and I think taking time out, spending time with the family, having downtime, having exercise is really important. I think talking to people, you know, I think that's really important. Those things that give you a bit of escapism. And I think that the other thing as well is, you know, I talked a little bit about this earlier, but I think you do keep it in perspective. You know, it is about a job. I lost my wife about 12 years ago now to cancer, and I think that, you know, when you're up against those tough moments at where you think, actually, you know, it's not life and death, and I think you've got to keep a sense of perspective on things.
Yeah, gosh, sorry to hear that, but yeah, it's tough, isn't it? And like you say, having a support network and being able to speak to people is so important. And wait for the day, hey, where we don't have to have a mental health awareness week. It's completely destigmatized, and it's the new normal, isn't it? So yeah, bring on that day, however far away it may be.
I think it's such a different place to where we were 10 years ago regarding, you know, those things. I mean, even if you look on LinkedIn, there's more and more people opening up and being open and honest and transparent, and there's more support out there. It is starting to become more of a normal thing to be able to talk about, you know, how you're feeling, how you're struggling, you're stressed, anxiety.
Yeah.
Cool, fantastic. So it'd be nice to end on I guess finding out a bit more about what's coming up for you, is what you're excited about, or what kind of big plans do you have over the next 6 to 12 months, longer term?
So from a business perspective, we're trying to grow out a more typical wealth management business, so high net worth, and that's quite fledgling at the moment, but I think we've got exciting plans in place to keep growing that.
Oh.
We've adopted the Irwin Mitchell brand, so we are under the Irwin Mitchell brand now rather than IM Asset Management. Irwin Mitchell has got a national presence, offices in every major city. You know, we want to put financial planners in every office. You know, there's the service offering that I think we have, working with clients. I think that's quite a unique proposition that we can take, and that means that we will do well. We have fantastic retention rates as a business. There we've got retention rates this year of 99%.
Wow.
Our NPS, I don't know if you're familiar with the NPS, but our net promoter score is over 90%, which is world class. You know, I think there's lots of things there which are great foundations for building a great business. So I think, you know, over the next 2, 3, 4 years, that's going to be really exciting. Something I talked about earlier was the investment in technology. So I think we're looking now at, I suppose, on the back of this lockdown is, you know, how can we use technology in our business? How can we use it for our clients, for our advisors at the sharp end of the business to deliver something very different, but just as engaging and as exciting. So, you know, they're all really exciting things.
Fantastic.
On a personal level, yeah, I guess the point we can get on an aeroplane again would be nice.
Or you can get back to Sheffield Wednesday.
Absolutely.
As soon as you can get on an aeroplane, where are you going? Where's the first place you're going to go to?
Well, if you ask my youngest 2 kids, it would be Disney in Florida. If it was just me and the wife, it would definitely be a city break. We went to Bruges for my 50th about 18 months ago, and that was, you know, a weekend away from the kids.
Oh, perfect.
Lots of Belgian beers and good food and friends. So it would be a city break for us two, or Disney with the kids.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. I was looking to get a city break in at the start of this year, actually, because it was a few of my friends' 40th at the back end of last year. So I went to Lisbon in January. I was so lucky to get that in. I'm just like really pleased that I had that night. And it was a girly weekend, away from the family, away from my little boy.
I think we all keep dreaming of it, don't we? I keep going on Condé Nast and night, just looking at things like, can't wait for the day. But hey ho, we're in the situation we are in, and it's nice to have things to, like you say, to look forward to. And it sounds like there's some really exciting plans for the business, which is super exciting. So firstly, I want to say a massive thanks for coming on and spending a bit of time with us. Appreciate you're super busy, Dave. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. If listeners do want to get in touch about any of the topics that you've mentioned or have a chat regarding opportunities, is it okay if they LinkedIn? Is that the best form of contact for you?
Yeah, absolutely fine. Yeah, no problem at all. Happy to chat to anybody about what we've talked about today.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's been fantastic having you on the podcast. So thank you very much, Dave. And thank you very much to everyone for tuning in to the Let's Talk.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.